advantage of that. The first question I would direct to the panel, and each of you take a moment to answer it how you'd like, expound how you'd like. And the question is there any method by which we can work with the Muslim Brotherhood in order to change their behavior? And we'll just go from right to left.
This is, okay, it's working now. Well, that is a great question. I've been asked this question several times, obviously. And, but it's a utopian idea to change the Muslim Brotherhood. If someone is going to change in the Muslim Brotherhood, he would leave the organization and become a civilian. Because the Muslim Brotherhood is not a civilian organization. It is a militant, international, terrorist organization. So I don't think that we can change terrorists. But some people might say that the Muslim Brotherhood are pragmatists, and we can take advantage of that, and we can have some sort of cooperation. I have seen that because several analysts told me things like we can, there is proof that the Muslim Brotherhood is changing because they are closing the tunnels between Egypt and Gaza. So, well, okay, they are. Some of them are closing some of the tunnels, but it doesn't stop there. Why are they closing the tunnels? Have they converted to different ideas of Western civilization? Of course not. It's because they're planning something so much worse and much more sinister. What happened was they are actually right now considering opening the borders of Rafah and the Rafah crossing so that, and actually they started establishing Palestinian camps in northern Sinai. So the meeting between the chief of Egyptian intelligence last month with leaders of Hamas, they were discussing the possibility of permanently opening the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt, which means that you are going to have a southern Lebanon in northern Sinai. So that's what it means. It should not be taken at face value, and that is so much more dangerous than the tunnels. So before we start cheering for the tunnels, and then they're changing, no, they have a much more sinister plot. So that is how their change is being represented in the US media. And that is incredibly dangerous. The Muslim Brotherhood are, according to their doctrine, do not change. I will give you one example from history. When the Prophet of Islam had problems with political opponents, one of his friends called Ammar ibn Yasir told him, if I get killed, we will not be able to achieve our objectives. So the Prophet of Islam advised him to denounce his religion, apostate from Islam, and even openly curse Allah and Muhammad himself to advance the agenda. So they would be willing to go as far as apostating for Islam, if that will work, to advance their dreams of retention of power for an Islamic caliphate. So that is just my answer for the first question. But I would also like to remind people of the American Constitution and what it means to work with enemies of America. I'm publishing next week an article with proof that the president of Egypt, Mohamed Morsi, was personally involved in the attack in Benghazi on the American consulate. I have a video where the Egyptian terrorists in front of the American embassy in Benghazi, saying to other Libyan terrorists, don't shoot, don't shoot, Dr. Morsi sent us. I have that video, and I'm writing an article about it. So the Muslim Brotherhood are directly involved in an act of war against the United States of America. I would say now that collaborating with an international terrorist organization vowed to destroy America, whose vice president stated last year that bin Laden was a hero and that his mission shall be continued, is an act of treason according to the Article 3, Section 3 of the United States Constitution.
David. There we go, let's try that again. Can the Brotherhood be changed? Anything to add or subtract from that?
I'm not an expert in the Muslim Brotherhood, but I think it's worth reconsidering the default position of the administration as well as the Republican mainstream, which says that they're a government, they have interest, we have interest, Egypt's an important country, so of course we have to work with them. Last July, if I recall, Fuad Ajami, respected Arabist at now I think Hoover Institution, wrote an article saying the Saudi royal family and the Morsi regime in Egypt are natural allies against the Shia. And we expect the Saudis to be financing the Egyptians. They should be able to get along quite well. This turned out to be completely wrong. The Saudis have given virtually no money to Egypt. The Saudis consider the Muslim Brotherhood to be an extremely dangerous organization to their monarchy, as indeed the Jordanians consider it to be extremely dangerous. Our closest Arab allies, the Saudis and the Jordanians, have refused to do business with the Muslim Brotherhood, and I think we should take a tip from that. It's been said that powers don't have friends, only interest. I don't think that's true. We've got some friends, we have some interest. Israel's a friend, Poland is a friend, England is a friend. Apart from that, the list starts to taper off from there. In the case of the Middle East, we do have interest. We have an interest in maintaining the stability of the Persian Gulf and the flow of oil, because we have allies in a world economy that depends on that. So the stability of the Saudi monarchy is important to us, stability of Jordan is important to us. And if our closest Arab allies consider the Muslim Brotherhood too radioactive to deal with, I think that's because they understand it correctly to be not an Egyptian government, but a regional, a global subversive organization, which should be quarantined as much as possible.
I very much agree.
Hello? Okay. I think, first of all, I agree very much with what Cynthia and David have said about the Muslim Brotherhood overall, and our position towards it, what it should be. But I would like to, first of all, before I go on, I'd like to say two things. One, I want to clarify or correct a number I gave. The Shas research reactor in Egypt that exists currently since 1998, has been operating since 1998, has 22.5 megawatts, produces that much. And the most important point I left out of my talk was that since 2006, the Muslim Brotherhood has officially declared its desire to have a nuclear weapon for Egypt. Since 2006, when the head of the Muslim Brotherhood caucus in the then existing Egyptian parliament, the lower house of the parliament, declared that it was imperative for Egypt to develop nuclear weapons. And also there have been members of the Egyptian military, ex-members who've spoken, ex-generals, who've spoken openly about having an Iranian-style program where they would use the NPT to gain legitimacy in pursuing a peaceful program, between quotes, but in fact using it covertly to establish a nuclear weapons program. Now, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
You
Please,
want to say
sorry.
something? Sorry. But to go back to the question, I don't think you can do anything to change the Muslim Brotherhood. I think the Muslim Brotherhood is incapable of significant change. If it was going to change, it would have changed under the Mubarak regime or earlier, when it was forced to work, with the state apparatus, which I don't, even though I do believe the military was very much infiltrated, especially in the lower and middle ranks, and then later, gradually in the upper ranks, by Muslim Brotherhood sympathizers and even members. And that's really why the revolution was so successful, why it did bring down Mubarak so quickly, because the military was in fact working with the Muslim Brotherhood to bring him down. And so, in fact, were a number of the activists that were more secularly oriented. They very much welcomed the Muslim Brotherhood's help. The Muslim Brotherhood had connections to a couple of them that were not advertised at the beginning. But, and I've written a piece about this for the Foreign Policy Research Institute that's published in July 2012 called The Donkey, the Camel, and the Facebook Scam, if you'd like to look that up. And it really was a scam. But the question of whether they can be changed now or what to do about them now is really, they are in power, we have to deal with them in that sense. We put them in power as much as anyone else did. The Obama administration, when Obama went to Cairo to give his famous speech to the Muslim world, which is itself a very strange idea. It's unprecedented in American diplomacy that we should speak to people according to their religion and not according to their national allegiance or their patriotism in other nation states. We invited them to follow but basically we endorsed the Islamic supremacist ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood just by him giving that speech. That they should define themselves as, as citizens of the world according to their religion, not according to their state. So, or their other forms of identity. So, basically, he said to the Muslim world, first of all, you're Muslims first and anything else second. And secondly, he had the representatives of the Muslim Brotherhood sit in the front row. Front and center, so that they would be the ones that he was really directing this to. And he was signaling right then that the revolution should come any day now. And you are the future, is what he was saying to those people in the front row. He excluded Mubarak's presence by doing it.
I was going to add very briefly that there is an argument that comes from people like Steve Cook and Lindsey Graham and John McCain that Egypt is so important to us as a country that even if it has a regime that we don't like, run by a noxious political party, we nonetheless need to work with that party in order to stabilize the country. If it were possible for us to stabilize the country, I think that would be an argument worth discussing. But I think it's a moot question, and it's simply a diversion at this point to say that we should tolerate a noxious regime when it will get us nowhere by allowing it for further purposes. I think very much to Raymond's point, that to the extent that we undertake that approach, we'll end up doing nothing to stabilize Egypt or to alleviate the appalling suffering of the masses of Egyptian poor, but will give the Muslim Brotherhood more maneuvering room to do us damage.